Welcome, fans of the Justice League universe. My name is Sam.
Oh, and my name is Nick. That's my favorite part, so I was enraptured.
You got lost in the moment there.
Absolutely. My name's Nick Begovich, and normally I just write for the show, but today I'm joining Sam for an audio commentary on Justice League, and I'm super excited.
Yeah, so if you want to get queued up on the movie with us, we are going to pause it 14 seconds into the movie, which is right after the WB logo goes dark. When it gets dark, hit pause. It should be right about 14 seconds. So go ahead and get it set up there while we do a little bit of introductions here. So, Nick, you mentioned you've been writing with the show for a while. So we brought you in towards the latter part of Suicide Squad.
Because no one else wanted to do it.
As people might have noticed, like, Alessandro is not the biggest fan of Suicide Squad. I was okay with it, but I didn't, love it. And we were trying to make our way through the rest of the analysis, and we needed a little bit of a pick-me-up. And so I noticed you on the webs, and you had some nice things to say, some insights on Suicide Squad. So we brought you in, and now you're helping us with Justice League, kind of all hands on deck for this one.
Yeah, it's, we've all come together as our own little Justice League. I was looking at the notes for the next episode, and it's just funny to see, 4 different people with input on it.
And a lot of input to be had, but in that analysis, we try to be grounded in the movie itself, and we try to react to what's actually shown on screen and connect what's there, and we try not to get in too much of the behind-the-scenes drama and all that stuff that's separate from the actual presentation of what's on the screen. Now, in this commentary, it's going to be a little bit more freeform, so, different things might come up. We're kind of going to keep it pretty open-ended about what comes up. We are going to try to keep a little bit of a positive slant on it, because both of us do like the movie for what it is. We'll talk about some things that, maybe could have been something else, but we'll try to keep it overall kind of a positive spirit with just some regular kind of critiques as we go, but we're not going to be ragging on this like some people maybe are doing online.
Yeah, a lot of people have a lot of negative stuff. People are really, I don't know, man, people are going really hard on this movie, and I understand the instinct, just wanting to do that, and that's fine, I get it. Nobody, I think, wanted to see Zack Snyder's Justice League more than I did, but I don't know, man, it's not what we got.
Right.
Okay, real quick side note, movie history time. This isn't the first time this has happened, and it's not even the first time it's happened to a Superman sequel. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Richard Donner shot Superman the movie and Superman 2 back to back. And it was actually taken out of his hands before Superman the movie came out because Warner Brothers lost faith in his ability to produce a movie because they hadn't seen the whole thing yet. They hadn't seen the completed special effects, and they were like, oh my god, we're going to lose a gajillion dollars. As they fired him, and they brought on a different director who they had already shot so much of Superman 2, and this guy actually went back and reshot tons of scenes.
Yeah. Made
it into a completely different movie. Not a completely different, but very different from what Richard Donner had in mind. Very different from Superman the movie. And it's literally like Justice League just 40 years ago. But 20 years later, 25 years later, they let Richard Donner come back and recut his footage back into the movie and make his version of it. So
yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't take 25 years, but we could get Zack Snyder's Justice League eventually. So just be patient, guys. It's not an ideal situation, but take a deep breath. I don't know. At least we got a Justice League.
Yeah. Yeah, and my feeling is it's actually not that bad if you have a positive frame of mind on it.
Right.
If you want to go down the rabbit hole of just thinking about what could have been and everything that your dreams, were hoping for and all this stuff.
Yeah.
That can just get really negative, but I'm not sure what the point of that negativity is. So let's get into the movie and we can kind of talk about some of that as we go. So if you have it queued up, after the WB logo, right when it disappears, hit pause. Should be about the 14-second mark or so. And we're going to go from there in just a moment here. So I will count down 3, 2, 1, play, and then we will go together. So you ready to do this, Nick?
Oh, yes.
All right. So let's do 3, 2, 1, play.
Nailed it.
All right. Feeling good. So we get, some good opening type of stuff at the beginning.
Who is Access Entertainment's production company?
That's one that I'm honestly just not very familiar with,
and
I did not do my homework.
Joss Whedon or something.
I have no clue. I actually do not know anything about that one.
The new WB or the new DC intro is really cool because it reminds me of Justice League Unlimited, or actually just Justice League, not Justice League Unlimited. That was different, but, you know.
Well, it's kind of a mixture of the two, because like the beginning with the main characters definitely feels like Justice League, but then because there's so many in that pantheon, that feels like unlimited scope, you know. So
it's a good move too, just using every character. I kind of like this scene, the little the cell phone thing. Nice shout out to podcasters, that's fun. But I really like what he has to say about the S. It's like a river; it comes and goes. That's so nice. That's so Superman.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's like this suit and this logo and the symbol have really been infused with a lot of meaning through the trilogy, and so I thought that was nice to like bring that meaning into this movie as well, because that was really something that they focused on a lot at the beginning. Now, I will say, so this is one of the things that I wanted to say about like the way that you approach this movie really matters. So I'm honestly telling people, for these scenes, look at Henry Cavill's eyes and just focus on his eyes and the bridge of his nose.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you can have the discipline to do that, it makes a huge difference.
Hey,
so I know it might be hard, but go for it.
Men can't fly, and when you shoot bullets at them, the bullets make holes in them. Nothing in movies is real. Just, goddamn, all right, his lips look weird. Get over it.
And look up. And honestly, if you look up, then your brain just makes it say, like, oh, that's a human's face, and it's all fine. It's when you stare at his mouth that it becomes a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I've honestly done that. It was like my fourth time watching it, and I made myself do that, and it helped a great deal. So that's something here. Now there's Batman reflected in the glass. Nice little touch for his entrance. Like this shot of him perched on the side there, it's kind of like an uninteresting angle. The city kind of looks cool and it feels like Gotham, but the straight on angle's not cool. But I do like the reflection where you kind of get a peek at him first.
This is actually a pretty good idea, giving us some classic Batman stuff to remind us that this is Batman. This is how good he is at fighting crime. A little context for the rest of the movie. Yeah,
and this is his, like, before Justice League, this is his terrain. He's rooftops, he's with criminals, and he is investigating something larger, like he's investigating a threat. But by the end of the movie, it's very different. He's in a different context with people around him. So I think they're setting it up to show the change in like where Batman starts to where he is going eventually.
Oh yeah, Batman really, he's kind of he's like our window into this world of gods. I had this whole thing about how he's like a prophet. More on that in the next Justice League episode of the show. He's like a normal guy. I mean, as much as Batman can be a normal guy, but compared to Cyborg, the Flash, Wonder Woman, Superman, and Aquaman, I mean, he's like a regular human being. So this shows what a badass he is, facing off against even like one parademon. But then later on, you know, when actual gods show up, he's like, "Yeah, I'm just going to be in the corner. You guys got this, right? Okay, I'll be over here." I mean, you know, that's all I can do.
Yeah. I think that's nice the kind of to put him as the, like, we always know he's the human on a like meta-human team, but I think that's a nice way to look at it in terms of he's the prophet for these like gods or demigods kinds of people. I will say, for the first time now, I just noticed that when he's riding the parademon, he actually does do a circle around that skyscraper and come back. Because I was always like so surprised that he's back on the same building that he started on. But I tried to watch it carefully this time, and he actually he like banks and goes around that skyscraper and does come back around. Because the first time I watched this, I was just really surprised that the guy was right there. Like, because I thought that they had like flown into the city somewhere else, but he actually did come back around. So they really try to really make these three boxes super clear. And I think this is like some of the course correction from BVS. Like in BVS, they trusted the audience to really connect the dots and infer things, and the audience didn't all rise to the occasion. Some of us tried to. But here I think they're like, we need to make it really clear to the audience these three boxes. And so this is like one of the moments where it's like, let's show them very clearly. Let's have Alfred comment on them. Like, it's impossible to miss. Yeah, my personal hero, Dr. Awkward, likes to call that a movie for people who like to chew their food. And this is a little more like a Marvel movie. It's a little more like that whole scene was Joss Whedon, right? I mean, right? Don't we all kind of agree? Yeah, like that was all added later. And because honestly, again, I don't want to be all negative, but like, why, if he explodes, why would he explode with the secret plans all over the wall? That I just don't.
There's literally no reason for that to happen, and that just seems like a kind of like, put the boxes in there. Okay. Yeah, just stuff like that.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of like, why is that there except for just to try to really beat the audience over the head with it? Now, I mean, for me, I have a lot of positive things to say about this montage, though. Like, the feel, like, you know, we saw Superman, we saw Batman, we're going to see Wonder Woman, so I think they're trying to, like, establish the Trinity so that they can then move forward into their character arcs. But now we need to really have this emotional moment where you need to set up the emotion of the world, and, you know, Batman is doing his Batman thing, but you realize, like, no, he's still following up on the death of Superman, and that's still affecting him, and now we get to feel the emotion of that effect on a personal level and on, like, a global level.
Well, the only other movie that really deals with this is Suicide Squad, and it's one of the reasons I like that movie so much, because it's you know, a world without a Superman. You know, it's a big deal to have Superman be around and then have him be gone all of a sudden, and that's I like that there's some time spent on that before we get into the meat of the story, and to just have it do it in a really nice musical montage. Honestly, this is great. Yeah, and I like how the music shifts here. It becomes like more violent, like right as we go into this part. Like at first it's kind of sadness and mourning, and now we're also realizing like, oh, there's also anger and turmoil and a little bit of like a loss of control because our protector is gone, and you know that can just feed on itself. Now this actor, is this true? Was that Jimmy Olsen right there, throwing him down on the car hood? The actor who played Jimmy Olsen in the previous ones, I believe. I just watched that. Really doesn't look like him.
We can, our listeners can check on that. I'm not positive, but I thought I heard that. Now here we get the nice, there's like a couple vans driving over the bridge, and like pan over to follow those. A nice little transition. And the clear setting, like we can really tell we're in London, so that's kind of nice in terms of establishing.
Not a bank, by the way. This is the Old Bailey, which is London's, which is like England's highest court. So it's kind of like Lex blowing up the House of Congress.
Yeah.
Blap, blap, double tap. Yeah, boy, that's how you get them. Can't just put one bullet in there. It's got to be two. You got to make sure that brain is nice and messed up. Anyways.
Yeah. And that to me is interesting, their like plan where he was going to go in, and then they knew that the attention was going to go to the people at the van with the huge rifles, and so he's already in position to take care of it. Like, to me, I'm just really struck by how confidently they go in here. Like, it's not just how lethally and deadly they go in, but just look how confident he is right now, and like as they're going. Like, this is one of the most, important buildings in this country, and he is walking in like he owns the place.
I recognize that guy, man. I really should have gotten on IMDb before we watched this. Where's that guy from? He's from Game of Thrones or something, right? I don't know. It's really bothering me.
I can't place him exactly. So here, definitely a big shot that you knew was part of the plan for this scene. When they put her in London, they're like, we want to put her up on Lady Justice.
Yeah.
So again, great, it's kind of cool especially for the Brits who have a lot of connection to that statue. Good use of the lasso here for sure. I think they could have framed the shot a little bit differently so there wasn't like kind of an upskirt thing, but it seems like that would have been an easy thing to fix, but
I don't know who shot what. It's hard to tell sometimes, so I don't even try to worry about it. Yeah.
This is a nice way, though, to build the tension. So, like, we got a lot of tension from when they took the building, and now we get the rising tension as the guy in the lasso, alludes to the bomb, and then we see the bomb. So it's really paced well in this scene, I think. It builds us up until the big, like, release of Wonder Woman.
Damn, I love that shot.
Taking care of it. Oh, yeah. And also, I thought that's a nice echo of what we saw in the Wonder Woman film, too. Like, she had some entrances like that before, so we're sort of coming to expect her to make some nice entrances into the room.
Living wrecking ball. It's so cool. That's the whole speed thing and that jump. One of the themes in these movies has always been about like pushing yourself further. It starts with Man of Steel, but it's present in all of them. And I like this. I like that in the last 70 or 100 years, she's learned that I can just like zip across the room, and that's like this right here. Like it's a logical progression of her abilities, and I really like that.
Yeah, it's cool to see them kind of powering up, and it does make sense because a lot of time has passed. So, I like the little spinning move when she's on her knees. I also like the continuity. So in the Wonder Woman film, she does a lot of sliding on the floor in her attacks and stuff. I like that they kind of incorporated that here too. It's very agile. So here we get some on. They actually went to Iceland and filmed this. So that's pretty cool location work.
Worth it.
Yeah, it's pretty epic. And again, like good establishment. You know, like that really felt like London where we were, and now this really feels like Iceland and, you know, a remote part of the world and the cold and stuff.
It's also very Batman of him to get up on a ledge and look down on a little town.
Yep, definitely. Even when he's Bruce, that's a Batman kind of stance. Now here so Bruce says, you know, I'm asking for your help. So to me, this is key. Like they're starting to already let us know Bruce's arc. Like this is really a big step for him to actually say, I'm asking for help. You know, like think about that. That's Bruce Wayne asking for that. So he's coming into a new phase of his life in this movie.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about, him being a prophet. Like he is reaching out for humanity as a human to the gods. You know, trying to bring them together. So it's not just him, like, you know, like bringing together the Justice League. There's also that element of like Prometheus going up to Mount Olympus, and I like that about his the take on his character in these Zack Snyder movies. Because if they're gods and he's just a man, then, you know, what kind of a man deals with gods? I like that. Yeah,
and that's a cool, like. There was also the bigger decision to make Bruce the one that's trying to pull the team together, and then Diana kind of helps him do that. Mm-hmm. But in an alternate version of these movies, there might have been like Superman pulling the team together or something. But thematically, I like what you're talking about, and I like the decision to have Bruce actually be the one to pull the team together. And it's very meaningful him to do that because he is such a loner, and he had been in such a like isolated place before this.
And that's what I love about comic book. This is what I love about comic books, is there's a million ways to tell this story of the Justice League coming together, and like 100 of them have already been told. You know, have just anybody can come along and say, but what if it happened this way? And that's storytelling. That's like the heart of storytelling, is bringing your own thing to it. And this is just Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. This is them doing their version of it. I love it.
Yeah. Now we should talk here about Aquaman, Arthur Curry here. The other fun thing with these characters is to put them together and have some like really memorable, iconic interactions. And I think Arthur throwing him against the wall is just a really iconic way for them to have their first meeting. So that just on a pure like kind of gut reaction level, it was cool to see that. And you're also kind of sizing up the strength and stuff that they have, and get to see, you know, a little bit of Arthur here getting ready to go in the water. But the interactions between them is just really fun to watch.
This Arthur is insanely strong. They do that thing in Batman vs Superman where they show you the sort of data on the screen when the underwater vehicle is, you know, taping him, and he's if I remember 37,000 feet down.
Wow!
So the water pressure is incredible. It's like tons per square inch, and he can just like throw his spear. That guy is insanely strong. Yeah, and that shot of him taking off his borrowed jacket and jumping into the water cleverly mirrors Clark coming out of the water wearing only pants and stealing clothes and a jacket in Man of Steel.
Nice, good connection. Yeah. The inverse kind of that. It's good.
Yeah, Snyder likes to use mirrors and stuff like that. Like Batman vs. Superman,
definitely.
The beginning reflects the end, things like that. That's what I was looking for more of in this movie, and at least we got some of it, eh?
A little bit of it, yeah, a little bit of it. That's cool, yeah. And I think also that the interactions with Arthur and Bruce, it sets up a little bit of them, like, you know, obviously they did not get off on the very good foot, so it's very cool at the end to see Arthur, like, riding the Batmobile. So like they've come a long way from their first interaction. So so again from BVS, you know, I really like this Alfred. I think he's a good partner for Bruce. Just in terms of the character work that they have and the way that Alfred can kind of be this voice in Bruce's ear, but the audience gets to hear it, I think is really effective. And here we get a little tease towards like a Bruce Diana thing, but I'm glad that they didn't like go full on romance. I'm glad that it was just sort of a little tease.
Yeah, I wonder. I on the one hand, that could be because remember this scene. You watch the trailer. I'm pretty sure this scene was actually him talking to Diana, not necessarily Alfred. And I wonder if that isn't something Joss Whedon added, or if it was going to build up into something in Justice League 2. You know, hashtag until it didn't.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, like just looking at Ben Affleck here, it does look like it's pieced together from some of the original shoots and some reshoots. But yeah, so we've met. You know, we've got a scene to establish Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, like their starting point. Then we met Arthur. Now we're meeting the Flash. So it's, you know, there's a clear like systematic approach that they're taking here to Act 1.
I love that. It's a little blur. There's like one frame, 2 frames of his hands. It's so good.
So it's a little risky for him to do that, right? But the way I view it is that he's sort of just like, I'm floating around. Nobody can really pin me down, so I can do something kind of risky like this.
Oh yeah, he's definitely
because
figured
I know
out.
They'll never. Yeah.
No, he's definitely figured out like what his limits are, what he can get away with.
Mm-hmm. Now here he like did sign his name, and so he could be identified, but it's such like it's not an important thing. So like nobody's really going to follow up and do an investigation because of some marker, you know? Like,
well, it's also it's not just him. If you think about it in terms of the physics of the Flash, he's not stopping and thinking about it. Once he goes into that super speed mode, he literally has time to look around. Nobody's looking at this guy. They're just going to think he's an idiot, and we're in prison, so he's probably an idiot. So. And he has all that time to go through that. It's because I say that because the movie shows us that when he throws the batarang at him, and he literally has time to stop and look and think about it. You know, so it's not not like his motion gives him the time. Anyways. Yeah,
no, you're right. Good point. I like too this scene. I feel like this. It sets us up well for the Flash character here because it starts with a little bit of humor, but then it goes to some heart, some real emotion here. Yeah. And I think that's a good preparation for what to expect from him for the rest of the movie. He is going to be humorous. He is going to have some personality quirks and stuff, but he has a heart at the core of it.
I kind of like the Power Rangers thing of Arthur's orange sweater and Barry's red jacket.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, but
look at him.
I think it's well acted here. 2 good actors in that scene. So another good establishing shot here. Let us know. All right, we remember this. Some good connective tissue from BVS and Man of Steel, really.
This just hit me. This just hit me last night. If they're working on the ship, why haven't the robots tried to kill them? I think they're like in another part of the ship, but still, you gotta wonder.
Oh, or they found a way to deactivate him or control him or something.
I doubt that. Because remember, when Lex goes... when he goes into the command chamber, he's obviously the first person to be able to open it, so I just assume they're just staying in there. So it's not really a problem. I just only realized it last night while I was watching Man of Steel. When it tries to kill Lois, I was like, no, wait a minute. But yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, systematically, we have the 6th member of the team. Get a little, establishing scene here. Really good, again, use of reflections there. The family, but he's, like, separate from the family in the shadows here. Just a good way to visually set up the, like, emotional state of Victor. And I think these are key lines. Like, so one of the things that I like about this movie, because I do like this movie, is actually Victor's stuff. And this is maybe, like... Victor is maybe the best way to talk about like the mindset that you take to the movie, because I think there's lots of good Cyborg stuff in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Was there also some Cyborg stuff cut out? Yes.
Oh,
but
certainly.
We also have good Cyborg stuff in the movie, so like why not focus on that? Like this is a really good start to the character. It makes me intrigued about what he's going through, how he's feeling about it. His dad's role in it, their relationship, like father and son, but they have this tension and stuff. Like, to me, this is a great way to start off a character.
He says to see the monster, and then he says, it's interesting. He thought it was me. What was he referring to? I still haven't pieced that one together.
I took it as he views his dad as the monster. Like, his dad was the monster for doing this. But his dad was kind of implying that Cyborg's the monster.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Damn.
So they basically each have a kind of a thing against the other one. I mean, they have the father-son bond still, but they have a lot of stuff they have to work through. Like, so that's, to me, why it makes me just intrigued in following the character more.
Hey, don't we all?
Yeah, and like they couldn't do that last night, so it's like, oh wow, he's going to be like developing new powers literally from moment to moment throughout the movie. So I think that's a nice setup as well to like draw the audience in.
I can't help but think of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, all right, so we said we're going to try to stay positive, but there's definitely a few things here that I wish were a little bit different. One of them is, to me, this little shot with the janitor is not as scary or tense as it should have been. It just wasn't filmed as effectively as like some of the later parademon stuff.
Totally.
And then
later, if there wasn't more to that would have brought that, but this is what I was saying earlier. We were talking in the group chat. 2 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second. I mean, that's the thing you have to remember about any time you're like, why isn't there more? 2 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second. Like, that was a deliberate number. There's a lot shaved off. But that being said, damn, I love that establishing shot of Themyscira as the island appears as the camera pans in. That's so good. That's awesome.
I thought so too. I thought it looked beautiful. My wife thought it looked like kind of fake. I'm like, well, I mean, it does start invisible and then come into view, so that could see. But I thought it looked great.
Mystical island in the middle of your brain already knows it's not real. Just read the comic book. Just accept it. Accept it.
Yeah, yeah. So this is also, I think this is kind of a cool concept with the mother boxes as a way to tie together the different, civilizations on Earth. So I mean, I think there was a lot of like conceptually good apparatus to this movie. I think it's a nice way to have the Amazons involved, have the Atlanteans involved, and then have mankind involved as well. And they didn't just do it because, hey, let's just put these mother boxes here. They built it into the themes of the movie about unity, about working together, and about the danger of like being separated and divided. So to me, I think that was probably from Terrio. Like, we're not just going to have something in the plot. We're going to tie the plot into a bigger theme, and that's the kind of stuff that I like. All right, here's the big guy. So we should probably come. So what was your reaction when you first saw Steppenwolf and his entry here into the movie?
Oh, I don't know. He looks cool and he's scary, and I like his delivery. Ciarán Hinds is he is in Excalibur, the movie that I think most informs this series. If you haven't seen Excalibur, people listening, please, for God's sake, go watch Excalibur. He's in that movie, and he's almost entirely cut out of it. He has like 2 lines, and he had a bigger role, and it got shaved down, not unlike Batman vs. Superman or this. So it's nice to see him. I mean, obviously, he's had a really good career since Game of Thrones and other things. But I like him here.
Yeah,
he's going for it.
Voice is pretty cool.
Almost there. Oh shit! I love this scene. Yes, that's so cool. They don't knock the wooden blocks out. They blow them apart. Yeah, that's so cool.
But then it also shows you the strength of these Amazon women, right? Because you just saw the huge pillars that were holding it up, and now they're holding them up.
Yes.
So, yeah, a lot of strength.
That's Zack Snyder. That's 300. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And this is cool. This is also a nice way to just bring an early action scene into the movie. Like we're 20-some minutes in, and we get to have a full action sequence here.
Hulk jump. Hey, I calls him like I sees him.
So I love the way that he comes down with the axe and hits the ground. I just like the physics of how he does that. That was really good. But yeah, here's some tackling with some horses. The parademons come in to cause some trouble. Yeah, it's good momentum to the scene though. It has a lot of energy, like moving forward, and the mother box is a good way to like track the momentum and the energy. But
that I like to keep using lassos, which really helps illustrate why Diana is so ready to lasso everything. Oh, I love that shot.
Yeah,
heroic that's another theme that comes in these movies a lot. Is this heroic sacrifice of relatively normal people, especially soldiers. The Amazons do it here, but in the other movies, it's always like U.S. infantrymen, but always like really cool ones, like Rangers and SEALs, and they're nothing in the face of a god, but they try, damn it. And through their sacrifice, their sacrifice, they do it, and that's I don't know, I just like that.
Yeah. Now here, we've had the excitement, we've had some death and stuff, but now here it brings a little more personal edge to it by having Hippolyta actually go right up to the woman as she's passing away, and brings a more of an edge to it.
She's a great leader.
And then this, Steppenwolf flicking the arrow ways.
Yeah.
Pretty good here. Now the "you will love me" thing, I'm not sure if that really follows through, like in the rest of the movie.
No, it doesn't. But that's definitely a dark side thing. Like that is absolutely, that would have been definitely a hashtag until it wasn't kind of thing, because that's what the anti-life equation is all about. Dark side is Rock of Ages. Read it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot more Amazons than I thought, I guess.
Yeah, aren't there like thousands of them? It's a pretty big island.
I guess so. Yeah.
I live in like a geographically small town, but there's like 4,000 people here. It's not a big place.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. And they're all warriors. That's so cool. Well, I'm actually not all. They have like senators and stuff, but like,
right.
I love that there's just like this huge untapped army just fighting each other all the time.
Yeah.
It's very Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah. So this is a nice way to connect the Amazon stuff back to the the Justice League heroes in man's world. Yeah,
because I know nothing about the world and like famous architecture, I literally thought she was just lighting up a building on the other side of the island. No, this is actually, what is this, a Parthenon or something?
Yeah, so I took it as somehow she could shoot that arrow like all the way over the water into another.
But no, it's like way
body.
Cooler than that.
Yeah. So this sort of humor I like. Like, I think this works, because we just last saw her saving all those kids and everything, and now for her to just say, oh, nothing interesting, as she's polishing up some Greek stuff, like, I think that humor works pretty well. There's some other spots where I don't think the humor works quite as well. But
that's also true of, like, Zack Snyder movies, so, I mean, honestly...
Yeah, I've brought this up sometimes, like, in Man of Steel, there's a few moments where I also wish they were, like, changed, like specific things. They don't ruin the whole movie, but they're just for a moment. I wish it was different or the dialogue was different. Now here, this is one I don't like, this humor of the probe, because I think it undercuts what was supposed to be. Like, we're supposed to be worried about the scientists and people that are getting abducted. We're supposed to be worried about the parademon.
We just had that insanely badass dramatic moment, and then she's just like, aliens, and okay, lady.
Yeah, and the kidnapping by the parademons is supposed to be what we are worried about right now, and to just make jokes. You're not just making jokes during the tension, you're actually making jokes about the tension, like about the thing that's supposed to be scary and worrying us. So like, I did not like that at all. And I also didn't like that to be like the backdrop of Lois and Martha's scene. The backdrop was the probing stuff. So that was one where I'd like, just take that out. I'm not against humor, but I'm against certain kinds of humor that undercut the bigger things that are supposed to be moving in the movie.
For me, here it's more about timing than anything. It's just I think, isn't it kind of like this scene where they have their little heart to heart was in a completely different location, so that's kind of a good indicator this is Joss Whedon, which and probably the reason probably the reason it was changed wasn't because he was like, it needs more jokes, we're just going to completely reshoot it. No, probably the way that scene played out, the amount of time that it took, the things they were talking about, made more sense in whatever 3-hour version, a 3 hour, 0 minute, 1 second version of this that existed before. So, that's something to keep in mind. But the end result, what they did with it, I'm not really a fan.
Yeah. And I suspect part of the directive was to put in some more jokes. So I think for like each of the scenes he's reshooting, he did try to put in some jokes, and some of them were ill-advised, but and
which is the result of people just, Superman should be funny. Name a Superman comic that's like famous for how funny it is. Name one. And I gotta let that go, but damn, that makes me mad.
Yeah. So what do we actually get from the scene? So we get that Lois is, a lot of people were seeing how they deal with loss. And so here we find that, like, Lois, she's had to take a step back at work. She's kind of, like, reevaluating, like, what she can work on, how she feels about it. And Martha, how's Martha dealing with the loss? She's actually, like, giving up her home. She's moving. So it does tie into this bigger theme of how people deal with loss. And then we see Cyborg here, who's dealing with his own loss, like, of his actual life and, the loss of his being that was before, and now he's this new thing. So I think it does connect to the idea of dealing with loss.
Oh yeah.
This is cool. Like, again, it's like, oh wow, I have a new power now, and I heard myself being talked about, so let me look at it. And then he has access to all of Bruce's Batcave stuff, so that's pretty. It shows Cyborg's power, right? Like, wow, he can tap into even Wayne Manor kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like nothing to him, and that's really driven home when he produces the key, the command key for the scout ship later on. Like, oh, it's any technology anywhere in the universe, which really illustrates how powerful the new gods are.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Diana, again, same thing with her. She's just like,
go right through it too.
Yeah, I'm just going to I'll open this door and walk in here. It is nothing to me.
Yeah, so we've got at least 2 of the Justice Leaguers that have no trouble whatsoever infiltrating the Batcave. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, and all of which goes to illustrate just how far out of his depth even Batman is here.
Yeah, and I think we see that later too, like physically when he has the bruising and he needs help getting his suit off and stuff, like that's showing like physically he's really got too much to handle. So it's a good thing he has the Justice League around him.
Oh my god, I wish we could. I just want the longer version of this scene.
Did
you see the illustrations of the gods for this scene? With like the metal arms? Oh, so cool.
So like this stuff is great, but yeah, I would have taken twice as much and would have been happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now here, again, being like very explicit about the mother boxes. And I mean, at some point you were going to have some kind of history lesson, but here they're just having them talk about it in a little bit more of a direct way. Like Bruce is like, yeah, I've been seeing this. And she's saying, oh, this is what they are. So, it's not bad. They're just trying to really make sure that the audience is on board with what those mother boxes are and what's going on. And some of them still missed it. Like some of the audience still thought that like Steppenwolf was the one that's going to like conquer the world, and it's really no. The Unity is the thing that like that takes over the world and stuff. And Steppenwolf is just there to kind of usher it in, But this is good. So like now we're seeing like if mankind and the Amazons and the Atlanteans, if they join together, then they are stronger than they are apart. And that's obviously that's one of the big themes of the movie.
Green Lantern. I'm so glad there's a Green Lantern in this movie.
Cool.
I'm a huge Green Lantern fan, and I'm actually, it's kind of a bummer to not have all 7 Justice League members. But if you were going to pick one, like I say, save the best for last and bring Green Lantern to Justice League 2. I'm very excited to see that. So to get a taste of it here, awesome.
Yep, I think it was fine. I'm pretty excited about it, and I think the 6 characters we had was a good number to have.
Oh yeah.
So here, he feels disgraced that he has lost, and he's basically like in exile all the way till he gets brought back.
And that shot of them dragging him back onto the ship is a lot like the Kryptonians dragging Zod back onto his scout ship after he goes flying to the gas station in Man of Steel. Just all these little visual things that Zack Snyder does. I love it. I love it.
Yep. So now we get to see the mother boxes being put into place. So this here is the Atlantean part's a foreshadowing that, hey, we're going to get a little action scene around that mother box too. Like the audience can put it together. Like, oh, we just saw Steppenwolf and the Parademons go to Themyscira and get that one. So I'm guessing they're going to go underwater. So it's a nice way to like build our anticipation for that scene coming later. Yeah. An Age of Heroes. So yeah, that's a little bit of the Age of Heroes coming back. Although the line like the Age of Heroes thought it would never return, it has to, is actually not in the movie, is it? It was in one of the trailers.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That happened on Last Jedi. There's a line that where Luke says it's time for the Jedi to end. That was actually something they had him record for the trailer, and Rian Johnson was like, you know what? That's actually a better line, and they just put it in the movie.
Yeah. So here they're talking about, these are going to be the two people recruiting. So the dig 'em up is a nice little line in terms of like rebirth and that sort of thing. And Cyborg and Superman are really the two that have kind of had a death, but by the end they will sort of have a rebirth of sorts. I thought this was all right to show that Cyborg is, like, once Cyborg saw that Bruce Wayne is Batman and that he was talking to Alfred about Cyborg, it makes sense that Cyborg would kind of try to check them out, see what was going on.
Superman, there are elements of him reflected in all these characters. Barry is Superman before he became Superman. Victor is Superman now, dead and being reborn. They all have something in common with the guy. I like that. They all come back to Superman. This
Aquaman's strength is almost just like, yes.
Okay, so this is reflected. There's a shot in Batman vs. Superman where Barry first appears to Bruce. And Barry, in that scene, already knows Bruce. Bruce has never heard of Barry Allen or the Flash, and he appears to him through a rift in time. And we see him framed on the the right side of the screen, reaching out with his arm to Bruce as Bruce leans back in awe. And then a moment from now, Bruce is going to throw his batarang. Bruce, who knows who Barry Allen is, and knows that he's a Flash, and Barry Allen has probably never heard of Bruce Wayne. And now Bruce is in Barry's home, and in a second he's going to throw the batarang. Barry is going to lean back from the batarang while Bruce is, standing frozen in time with his arm outstretched. It's not just like a visual reversal of that scene from BVS. Here it is. It's also a thematic reversal, and it's just... Yep. It's just perfect. This is that Alan Moore shit, man. Like, this is that Watchmen shit. You can tell that, like, Snyder had to, when he made Watchmen, he had to do it linearly. He wanted to go, like, panel by panel, chapter by chapter, and mimic that story without telling it the way that story is told in the comic. You can see how that must have been boiling over for him for a few years to want to tell a story in that style. And that's what BVS is to me, and that's what I think this would have been, is that real Alan Moore style, reflecting, circular loops in the story. Just real like unique stuff.
Right, like the deleted scene with Superman, which we now have like on the Blu-ray and stuff, like that seems like exactly what you're talking about, right? Like they are thinking about Man of Steel, and then we're saying like, all right, we're going to have something very meaningful come back as Clark is walking through the scout ship again and then choosing his suit, and foregoing the other things that he passes up. Like that is probably the Alan Moore level stuff that you're talking about. That almost made it in if they would have had another minute to spare.
Sweet car.
Yeah, so here's a little bit of product placement, but I think I'm okay with it because it's kind of just adding on to the joke about I'm rich. Like, I think that's a good joke, and then seeing the close-up of the vehicle it's just adding to the joke, I think.
Don't get me started on product placement, because for me, it's kind of like Transformers, but like cooler. Like, remember Transformers? Like, a huge portion of that movie's budget was just straight up paid for by GM because they used all GM cars, but that made sense because they're all cars. What are you going to do? Make fake cars? No, just make them like Fords and stuff. Anyways, here there's a point being made about the pervasiveness of big corporations in everyday life. You go to Smallville and there's an IHOP, there's a 7-Eleven, there's a there's a Sears. I live in a small town that's I think a little bit bigger than Smallville. We have a McDonald's, a Subway, Speedway. I could go on. We have all these huge businesses.
The corporations have infiltrated everywhere,
Yeah, which speaks to both Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor's power, because that's what the world is like. The first shot you see of Africa in Batman vs. Superman in the extended cut is a guy handing Jimmy Olsen a Coke.
Yep.
That's how far this stuff reaches, and that's what the world is like. So, he gets in a Mercedes-Benz. What else was he going to drive? An Audi? No, he's richer than that. I'm sorry, Tony Stark.
So, 30 seconds ago or something, they showed a clip of Cyborg, and that's the one where we'll have to figure it out in our scene-by-scene analysis, because Cyborg has, like, more of his body in that shot, and so We'll have to see, like, is it just a continuity error, or is there some way that it actually makes sense that at some point he had less of his body?
I took that as if you ever look at his, like, like his original character design from the 80s, he very much looked more like a normal person with kind of, like, the robot parts were shaped more like a person, and I think that reflects his very fast evolution from, like, a torso to, like, kind of a Tin Man to this, monster that he is now, but he is scary looking. I think that's deliberate. I don't think that was a mistake or anything like that. I think for a second there, maybe for literally a day, he did look like a guy with normal arms and legs. They were just made of metal. But now he looks like this. And that's got to be unsettling for him.
And I'll admit, like, I have not, like, actually freeze framed it yet, which we will do for our scene by scene analysis and stuff. But yeah, I've just seen it quickly as it goes by, like it just did a little while ago. But this is a nice setup. So, like, we mentioned how Bruce and Arthur are going to have, like, their arc between their interactions and stuff, and Diana and Vic have a very clear one as well that starts here. Like, this is where Diana's compassion and her ability to, like, connect with people in, like, heart to heart is really one of her strengths, and it works here with Vic, and that's what Vic needed, right? Like, Vic needs not somebody to, like, push him around or strong arm him. Like, Vic needs somebody who will connect with him on a human level, because that's what he is, like, losing, and she helps him, like, rekindle it.
Wonder Woman's, like, the best fictional character. Actually, Obi-Wan Kenobi is the best fictional character, but still, she's up there.
But I think it's great to have, like, empathy and compassion as kind of, like, part of your superpowers. Yes. I think that's a great power set to have on the team.
It's like her stated mission is to be that kind of diplomat.
Yeah, and now, all right, this is the Cortland. Is that the Cortland? I think is the reference to the Fountainhead or something from Ayn Rand or whatever. But this is. Obviously, we know kind of what to expect here with the water setting. There he comes. I think the way he swims in the water looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And his stance on that is just awesome. His hair going in the water and stuff. It's a great shot.
Jason Momoa rules.
Yeah, he was a great choice. Like, I'm really hoping this Aquaman movie goes well in the fall. But if it does go well, like Zack Snyder basically handpicking Jason Momoa will be a huge reason why, because I think he is a great choice for the role.
Aren't those like his real tattoos? They just add a little bit to him?
I think he has some of his own real, but I think they enhanced and added. I think they made some of it align with the Aquaman costume itself too. Like,
a quick note about pollution. I'm pretty sure it's actually cool to throw glass into the ocean because it just gets ground up into pebbles. So,
okay.
I just don't see him like actually. He wouldn't throw a Coke can in there. You know what I mean? But the glass bottle, sure. Anyways.
Yeah, and he smashed it up too. So the thing there that bothered me more than the pollution or the litter was that in the trailer there was a shot from like straight on his back, and then the waves came like symmetrically over him. Like, visually, I just liked that symmetry better. I thought it was more powerful.
2 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second.
Having it off to the side and then having that sign in the shot to me is not as impactful. But
I agree.
So little stuff like that I can kind of nitpick. But
these guys aren't anywhere near as cool as the Amazons.
Well, I think this is kind of a nice little intro to them, but I think it's really in a few months is when we're going to get to see their full potential.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought that was cool, though, with Mira, though, to pull the water away, which causes him to fall down.
Yeah,
like, that's
that was
kind of a cool
sick.
little good move.
Zork.
And now, yeah. I think it's some pretty good. I think they did a nice job choreographing the water kind of moves. They kind of thought about like what can we do that's interesting, but that would be like physical in the water. I thought they came up with some good stuff here.
I wonder how deep that is. I wonder where Atlantis is supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know. There's still quite a bit of light coming through, so it can't be that deep.
Oh, that's a good point.
Boom, yeah, I like the old horns coming in. The axe, I think, is also pretty cool. Like the axe and the fact they have the glowing thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's a nice touch to add to the character. just to give him something memorable, that you can associate with the character. So yeah, I like this scene here with the dialogue between them, and I thought this was a cool way to have them be able to have dialogue down here.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to do that in Aquaman. Interesting.
Yeah, like between like Atlantean to Atlantean, where it doesn't seem like they would need to do this, or they don't have the power to do it.
That's a cool shot.
Yeah, it's good. He's like, I think of that as like he's actually a man between two worlds. Like part Atlantean, part human, and so he's literally like, I have one arm in the water and my feet on the ground.
And this is also kind of her accommodating him, being like, all right, land walker, like, hey, lady, come on. Like, no, I'll give you some air so you can hear my words.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this is interesting, like, so I like the scene a lot for building intrigue for the Aquaman movie, because they allude to this history, like his mother, what happened to her, like what kind of relationship would they have had, how does Mira fit in? Like, Mira seems to have this respect for the queen, and like, so to me it just raises a lot of questions where it's like, oh, they seem to have this history that they're referring to, but we just get a taste of it, and then in the movie we'll hopefully get a lot more of it.
Nice.
So the family here,
regular old Russian family living in Chernobyl, totally normal, totally regular.
Yeah, I guess the thought behind this must have been like, we're going to have a big action scene, climax is going to take place here, but we need to have a personal element. Like I mentioned on Themyscira, like you give a personal element where you show not just people dying, but you really have a close-up of somebody that's in pain and is about to die. I guess they said, like, we need a personal touch to bring the threat home, or like help us feel and empathize with them or something. I think that must have been the idea for it. The execution is maybe questionable, but I at least I understand, like, okay, that's what they were going for. That is part of like filmmaking 101, is if you want to have a threat, you need to put an actual human there that you can connect to the threat with,
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things in Man of Steel is, yes, the city getting destroyed in the abstract is scary, but dude, Jenny, when she's trapped under the rubble, that's so affecting.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that was a more like better executed version of it.
Yep. But this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like this is just two of them, and it's already showing some signs of power here. So this here is a little bit of insight into Steppenwolf, right? I'll take my place among the new gods. He wants to find the last box, and then this is where we're going to get the soul reference.
He's definitely related to Darkseid. He's just killing one of them, just because, not even to make a point. He's like, I'm just going to murder somebody real quick.
Yeah. Now here's the third straight down shot that we get. We had one in Gotham, one at Themyscira, and now one here at the Stones.
In Metropolis.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I think a better filmed, scarier use of the Parademon's abduction there.
Yo, it's my boy, the yellow M&M. What up? Did you know that? Did you know he's the voice of the yellow M&M?
Yeah, I think I did, yeah.
I just found that out.
Versatile. No, he's a good actor. I'm very glad to have him in the universe. Hoping everything works out with the Batman where he's still around, because I think he's got a lot more to offer here as Commissioner Gordon. But pretty good here, just like tying together like these abductions. Like, okay, these abductions are happening. We need to check them out. Maybe Batman's involved, probably not. But it makes sense that Commissioner Gordon would want to check with Batman about it. So that's a functional scene to introduce us to Commissioner Gordon and push forward the plot about the abduction.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. In like 5 lines, they completely contextualize his relationship to Batman. I always like that in Batman versus Superman. Like, he's not, in a lot of incarnations of Batman, he's very outside of the law, but then in a lot of other incarnations of Batman, he's literally a deputized member of the police force, and they lean a lot closer to that here. Well, like in BVS, he just like walks into that jail, obviously with the warden's assistance, and it's like I like that, because that's even scarier. It's one thing for the police to look the other way. It's a completely different thing for them to just be like, yeah, it's Batman. Don't piss him off, okay?
Yep. Now, earlier I mentioned the Aquaman shot that I liked better in the trailer with the symmetry of the water. This one, I liked the trailer shot of Batman on the ledge better. Like, we just needed to let that linger a little bit longer to see Batman on that ledge. Here, it's kind of like obstructed, and then he's jumping down. I'm like, that's just one where it's like, come on, it'd be 2 seconds, and it would be a better visual impact. So
2 hours.
So I do definitely. I have these
0
these small
minutes,
little things. Yeah.
1 second. I'm sorry, but it's. You know what I mean? Like, it's just... you lose so much when you just look at it as like a math equation. That's a real bummer.
Yeah, I think this is a good entry, though, for Cyborg. To me, it made sense that he actually would come up here and join. I think Diana gave him enough of a nudge that this works. It's nice to have him here for the scene. And I like Diana, how she looks at him when he arrives and stuff. This is a nice little bit of a kind of classic rooftop Commissioner Gordon, like... What info do you have? And like Batman, like, oh, that's what I needed. Like, and then he's off. I think it's a nice classic kind of scene. And this humor, I don't mind this humor at all. I think this is actually pretty good.
It's organic. I mean, that's just he's just used to it. He's like, okay, whatever. Like, yep. It's like, okay, more Batman.
It also foreshadows that like the Flash is going to be the one that has to kind of learn the ropes still.
Yeah.
They show that at the rooftop. He's the one that's like a little bit behind. Is new to all this stuff, and then that's going to happen here in the first action scene too. He needs a little bit of help, guidance, because he's new to this stuff. Braxton Island,
named for Tony Braxton. No, obviously not. I mean, cool location though. I like this set.
Yeah, it's a cool production design, and I think. Like, from here, start to finish, I actually think this is a really good sequence. I think they come into it well. We kind of get a feel for, like, okay, this is where we are.
Everybody does their little superhero thing.
Yep, and we can just tell, like, okay, we're going to have some action through these tunnels. We're not just going to go in here and then leave. Yeah. And Steppenwolf is pretty intimidating here. I think this is a good villain moment for him. Stench of fear.
Why does everyone keep telling me that? That is a good line.
Yeah. And I think it's delivered well, yeah. And then we can see, like, this is part of why Flash is going to get a little nervous about it.
I don't know if this was added. I don't care if this is added. This makes sense. Him just having just a moment just where he's just like, you know what? This is a bit much. Yeah, that's fine. I like that.
Right. I think it's good. Like, and to me, it doesn't take anything away from Flash that he needs a little bit of encouragement here at the beginning, because just like he says, like, he's been doing some slight crime fighting on a totally different level, and now there's literally a big old Steppenwolf in there with parademons.
Flash he's Sir Percival from Excalibur. Again, Excalibur, 1981, John Borman. Watch this movie.
Yeah, and now here, I think this is also a nice way to bring the League into the scene. It's the extra little impetus of Silas.
Awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
He's kind of surprised, too. I like that.
Yep, yeah, it's so, like, they're already showing us that Cyborg is only partially in control of what's actually happening. And
reminds me of the Blue Beetle scarab, because I don't...
Oh, yeah,
I haven't read that many Cyborg comics, but usually it seems like he has a lot more control. So I like that element of it just making decisions for him. Sometimes.
Yeah, now Wonder Woman's is in the fray. It's good stuff. I like this landing there.
Damn, I just like Amazons.
I like the physicality of just her legs and her balance and stuff when she lands. I always liked that.
Yeah.
Kind of like I like when Arthur landed on the boat. I just like the physicality and position of it.
There's little splash pages, that would be like 2 pages of one drawing in a comic book.
Yeah. And this is perfect here, right? So Flash, he does have the courage to do it, and then he does realize, like, oh, I can do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blood of your sisters. That's a pretty... Like, this is a good villain scene. Like, he's an intimidating guy. Like,
he has so much potential as a villain. Like, I really wanted to see what would have been done with him. Like Zod is one of my favorite villains in any movie. And Lex Luthor, too. And Steppenwolf, I don't really know anything about, and I just would have loved to see like what was. But here he's just he has some great moments, but overall he's just like, I'm evil. Yeah, but why? Because I'm evil. Which, to be fair, is like a very New Gods thing. But at the same time, I'm sure Snyder was going to do something cool with it. And
Terrio too. Yeah, so that's like, there are a few things where it's hard for me to not think about it. One of them is the music. We'll probably talk about that more later. But another one is like Kieran Hines and like Chris Terrio. They talked about Steppenwolf, and at one point Hines said, like Steppenwolf has this really interesting dynamic where he's oppressed by Darkseid, but he still has to serve Darkseid, and like I'm like, oh, that's a cool angle to take on it. Like,
that is all the apocalyptic gods. They're all like under Darkseid very firmly. I always liked that about them.
Yeah. So, and I thought with Terrio like fully getting a chance to do that might have been really cool, but I think that a lot of it was lost, and I think the actor confirmed that like Steppenwolf was changed substantially in the final version. So that's one where I'm kind of like, oh man, because like the Dawn of Justice trilogy, like you said, had Zod, then Lex, two of the three best villains I've ever seen in a comic book movie. And if Steppenwolf could have had some of those extra dimensions to him and dynamics, then it could have been 3 for 3.
Who's your third?
I think the Joker from The Dark Knight is also
a
really good villain. Yeah. So sorry, I talked over some of the stuff, but we're getting into the action pretty big time here. And now Flash has been saving people, and now this is a chance for him to also help out the team. Right? I'm going to help a teammate. And the music, I think the music is pretty effective here. Yeah,
I was literally about to say, I do like Flash's music.
Yeah, yep. And so, okay, since we brought up the music, I don't actually think that the music is bad. I just think it's a big letdown from what had been set up by Hans Zimmer and
It's
Junkie
a jarring shift, that's all.
Yeah, exactly.
If it had always been Danny Elfman, or if it was just the Justice League movie, it'd be great. But because you're used to Hans Zimmer by way of Junkie XL, and then all of a sudden, it's like that scene in Family Guy. I know I keep going on about this, but it's that scene in Family Guy where John Williams dies, and Danny Elfman has to do the soundtrack for Star Wars.
Yeah, and then they're not too happy with that. So I could do without this the Flash joke laying on her. Now, I don't think it's the most offensive thing ever, but I probably would have taken it out if it was up to me.
And I do like, I mean, it's a very Flash thing of him to zip right off of her. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But again,
and he did
probably not
intend,
what Snyder intended, no.
Right. He wasn't, like the Flash was not trying to find an excuse to lay on Diana. He was just saving her out of the way.
Yeah.
And then ended up that way. So like,
real respectful.
Right, yeah. But it's still, I probably would have cut it out if I could have. But this is a little good sequence here with the Flash getting taken after he hurt his ankle, or his foot, and Diana saving him, but then Bruce saves her. It's a nice little, everybody's got each other's back kind of thing. I think Diana probably would have been okay anyway, but it's nice of Bruce to try to help. Batman to help.
I'm helping!
And then this is cool too, now Cyborg to come in, and something that makes sense, right? He's going to try to help with the technology.
Yeah. Yeah, this makes perfect sense, and it's pretty badass.
Yep, and I like that humor from Alfred because they're not in direct threat. Like, nobody is about to get stabbed when the humor happens. Like, I don't like the humor when it takes away from what's supposed to be, like, tension or danger. But I think you can fit the humor in the right moments. And that's cool with the way that he holds it and then lets it off. I thought that was a pretty cool idea.
It's pretty tight.
And it also makes perfect sense, right? We're Gotham Harbor, so like this is a perfect way to have Aquaman come into the scene. It's like it's well constructed. Like there's some stuff people got to give credit to the good stuff here. This is a nice organic way to have Aquaman join in. And some people are like, well, how did Aquaman happen to be there right in time? Like, well, we just saw in Aquaman that he was coming to help out, and so he would try to come where Steppenwolf was, and so he happens to get here right in time.
The oceans speak to him. I mean, he said, what do you want? No, yeah, you're right. This is a really good scene. More of this, please.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can really feel the energy, and the sound design here was good. You can feel it rushing in. Sounded good. And then Cyborg can get them up high enough, at least, that they're out of immediate danger.
I like that. I like how much his armor, Arthur's armor, looks like a plate armor rather than just kind of his normal, more Superman-ish kind of superhero outfit.
Yeah,
I can tell that's a big obsession of Zack Snyder's, is this idea of plate armor, which again comes from Excalibur. But like, he gives everyone a chance to be wearing armor like that. Even in Man of Steel, even the General and the Colonel have a moment where they're in that sort of bulky assault armor that the military sometimes gets into. Like, everyone gets a chance, which I kind of feel like maybe at like the end of Justice League 2, Superman would have busted out something that looked like Jor-El's armor, and that would have been so cool.
I like the moment there between Aquaman and Batman again, continuing on their little repartee,
Yeah.
you know. And then Cyborg didn't just bail. He realized, like, what's more important is we need to secure the mother box. So, like, I like Cyborg all the way through this movie. I just gotta admit.
And remember, there was also that concept art shot of him in his own, like, cyborg version of the plate armor.
Yeah, yep. So
These
Russian
guys
families
are still alive for some reason.
Yeah, the parademons are not, I guess, that interested in actually getting them, because they could have if they wanted to. So does that mean the family's not really that afraid? Because, anyway.
Or this scene was just tacked on so that we would have a reason to care about the safety of the world by giving us humans to fixate on, because none of us can imagine. Never mind. It's really annoying to me. But this Barry running around the Batcave, that's great.
Yep, I like it. I like that a lot. He can be the one who just kind of like wears his emotions on his sleeve and is just, you know, happy to be here. I was happy to be part of the team. I'm happy to be in the Batcave. Like, he's sort of the, you know, almost kind of the everyman where it's like, wow, I'm swept up into the Justice League. I can't believe this, you know. Where Aquaman's more the reluctant one, Cyborg is more the one who's like dealing with his personal issues and somber one. So a little bit of exposition here, but I don't mind it. You got to have these at some points in your movie. This is, I think, a good place to actually put some exposition. So there's where, Cyborg explicitly says, like, you know, I basically died or should have died. Aquaman steals that piece, but I don't think that comes into play later. But
yeah, the mother boxes in this movie are very different from the comics. They're more like smartphones before smartphones were a thing, and so this is an interesting interpretation of them. And I still haven't quite figured out like how they work or what their sort of place in the universe is, but they work fine as MacGuffins here.
Yeah. The only thing I took from it so far, and I always wait to get into more of it when we do the scene by scene, but my main impression is they somehow have a really great amount of power over death to life or life to death, kind of like maybe in either direction. They can wipe out the life on a planet and then reconvene it to be kind of like the deathscape of Apocalypse, or they could take something dead and like juice it back to life, that sort of thing.
And that's
about all I have at this point.
They are in the comics, if I remember correctly. But
or from what I know in the comics, they're more like a really powerful kind of supercomputer that you can have, with you at your beck and call and work with and that kind of thing. Yeah, so this is going to be some tension here from now till later. Like Bruce maybe feeling some guilt, that he might be kind of rationalizing bringing Superman back because he actually just feels this personal guilt that maybe that was a mistake in BVS. And I think so you mentioned echoes. This clearly has an echo of the 1% doctrine from BVS, and now he's kind of reversing
black and white mindset.
But in both cases, he can kind of rationalize it to himself. Mm-hmm. Like in BVS, he's really just angry at Superman, wants to take him down to like prove his own powerfulness. but he rationalizes it to himself, like, this is why I need to do it, because of this 1% chance. Here, he might just be feeling guilty, and now he's rationalizing it as, we have to try to bring him back because we need him. Like, so I think he basically is just able to, like, convince himself of a course of action, but that the real reason is more of, like, an emotional reason, and he gives himself a rationalization to it.
Yeah, that's a very Batman thing. Anyways, the guy's a psychopath. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah. And then she has a legitimate issue that they've given her as well, like where she is kind of afraid of leadership because she knows that other people's lives are in your hand. And that's a legitimate thing, right? Like,
yep.
If you're going to step into power in a very violent, dangerous situation, that is scary to do because other people's lives do depend on you. So, like, I thought that was a believable kind of dilemma for her that she has to deal with. And I think they developed it really well to the end, that it does come around, it goes somewhere at the end where she takes leadership, but she says, I'm going to use my leadership to actually try to save people's lives, not just sacrifice their lives. And that even connects to, like, Wonder Woman, where in the Wonder Woman film, she was really upset with the British generals who were willing to sacrifice lives. And for her, that would be, like, the last thing she wants to do. She's going to be a different kind of leader. She's not going to just sacrifice lives as part of that.
More armor.
And yeah, we get a reminder about that alarm sound that's going to come into play later. And here we find out.
I like his armor being in here in this, like, sort of hall of historical armor. That makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of puts into context his bat stuff. It's not out of nowhere. Yeah. He's inspired by previous warriors and stuff.
Yeah.
So Alfred's saying, you have this team, but Bruce is really saying, we need Superman. I think these are some good lines. Some people might say that these lines aren't totally earned, but I just think the lines are so good that I just like them anyway. About Superman and Clark and stuff.
Well, he's right. I mean, I don't know. What do you want? Like, he is right. Like, this guy is raised, he's separated from society, he's a billionaire. Clark was, like, homeless. His entire 20s, he was like a vagrant, like an itinerant worker. He's human as hell.
Yep.
This is creepy. This is kind of weird for me because I always thought that they were going to do like I don't know, because you see the dirt floating off the coffin, indicating that something was going on, and then it just ends up being like, we'll just smack him with a mother box, which, like, I don't know, fine, but it makes sense given what the mother boxes can apparently do, but. I don't know, I kind of thought they'd do like in The Dark Knight Returns, where he gets smacked down by the nuke and he lands in a jungle and he absorbs all of the solar energy out of the plants in the jungle, killing all the plants, but it all goes into him. I kind of thought, like, the reports out of Kansas that all the cornfields died, but then, like, there's a hole in the ground. But this is fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really didn't have any good guesses about how he was going to come back. I just was really anticipating the movie to see how they did it, and I was okay with it. We'll talk more about that in a second. I do like this. So again, a team movie, you want to have a threat that, like, brings them all together. You want to have a theme that they're all kind of speaking to. I think they all speak to the theme of isolation and dealing with loss, and then the theme of, like, stronger together kind of thing. But the other thing you look for in a team movie is pairwise interactions between them. We've talked about, Diana and Bruce, Arthur and Bruce, and their Vic and Diana. And now here, I thought that was a good scene with Barry and Vic to kind of have a little bit of bonding with each other.
The big thing they have in common is, Batman's been Batman for 20 years. Diana's always been Diana. Arthur has always been Arthur, but these two, they're so new to this. Like, he's just becoming this thing, and Flash became the Flash.
Right, they used to be a regular person, and now they are a superhero. So that's a huge thing. So they have something to bond over, and I mean, I thought that was a good interaction. But even though it's they're digging up Superman while they're doing it, but I thought this movie did a nice job of putting characters together in ways where we could have a meaningful interaction between them, and it's to me, it's fun to see those interactions. Now, here we get a little bit of the music that I so, like, wanted this music in more of the movie. I will always say that I would have loved to hear the music more spread throughout. The music that I loved from Man of Steel and BVS.
But
we get a little bit of it here, so at least we get that. And there's the photo right from BVS. And then a good shot of, Batman looking on. And they were there
creepy.
When he died.
Yeah, thank God they gave us something to focus on in the foreground, because, ugh.
Yeah. Now, and you do, like, the first time you're watching this, you do like wonder what's going to happen, because the last time we saw this, amniotic chamber kind of thing, it didn't turn out so well with Doomsday coming out of it.
Yeah,
so it kind of makes sense that we're going to be...
Yeah, because, like, the way it's meant to, like, birth Kryptonians out of, and all that water is smashed out of the, that chamber that has the little matrix pods in them. And then, so in BVS, it's used to make Doomsday, and here it's used to just bring him back to life, which, checks out. It's weird. Yep. Not what I thought was going to happen, but it checks out. The math works.
Now, I said at the beginning to not focus on, like, what could have been. Now, there's rumors here that while Cyborg is plugged in, he sees the vision that kind of matches with Batman's nightmare, and it, like, adds a little bit more to it, and maybe has Darkseid in it.
Wait, why would he see that, though?
I don't know. They say somehow right here when he plugs in is how he somehow is able to see it.
That doesn't make any... I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense, because he's plugging into the ship. What, the ship has powers? No,
I don't know, but I would have liked to see a Nightmare Part 2. However,
I think there was going to be a follow-up to that, and it might have been Cyborg. Because Cyborg like, the mother box, again, is so advanced, who knows what it's capable of, but I don't think that would have been, like... That doesn't make any sense that, like, him plugging into the ship like that would have triggered something like that. But this is cool. That could
be just speculation, but but the Nightmare Part 2 was at least storyboarded out and that kind of thing. I just don't know exactly where they would have put it. Yeah. Now, this is everybody looking on, slow-mo, what's going to happen. Cool shot of the Flash. And he crashes.
This whole scene's pretty great.
So this is, you can feel a lot of the power coming out. It's a good way, like, I think just thematically you want to have him back in Heroes Park, and so having him burst out like that is just it's a very functional way of getting him out there.
Yeah, this several acres of Metropolis just cannot catch a break.
I think that's some nice... Like, some people said, like, this movie does not complete the trilogy, but I'm like, you literally have the Heroes Park trilogy, right? Like,
yeah,
you have the whole final showdown here for Man of Steel. It's a huge part of BVS, and it has a lot of thematic meaning and weight in that movie, including the candlelight vigil at the end, and now you have the resurrection here. So, I mean, this is definitely a trilogy. I think it's...
Oh, yeah,
it's not
sure.
right. It's not right to call this... Yeah, this is the trilogy. It's not what everybody wanted or hoped it to be, but this is the trilogy. Yeah. So here, like, what do you think of the excuse for, like, why Superman would fight the team?
Yeah,
I'm kind of okay with it.
And it's they really set up with, it's kind of more subtly with Cyborg, where, like, he doesn't have full control over the thing that he has become. So it all works. It makes sense, and he's disoriented. This is some real Lazarus Pit kind of thing, kind of deal, where he's just like I don't know. He doesn't even remember who he is, probably. That line, all the dialogue, like, we all agree, right? Like, all of his Superman's dialogue in this scene was all added later, right?
Yeah,
so I think if it was originally him just completely silent, just being a creepy, like, I'm gonna kill you, like, that would have made perfect sense without him, because I don't think he remembers Batman. I don't think he just sees these guys as a threat, but now he's like, do you bleed? Oh, I hate that line delivery, but, like, head, damn.
Well, that's kind of what I would say too. So, like, here, the reason that he is starting this fight right now and why this is happening, I think it works pretty well. He has no idea who Cyborg is, or Flash, or Aquaman. So like he's sort of like, who are these people? Are they threats? Oh, they seem like they're probably threats. So regardless of how much he remembers, other than Diana, who he barely met for a few minutes in their final fight, these are all strangers. So for me that makes sense, but I agree with you. Once he starts all the dialogue, then that's sort of where I'm like, well, it would have probably been better if he was just unsure and confused a little bit, and then just reacting or like responding to people around him.
You gotta have them jokes, or else the scene doesn't work. Oh my god, best scene in the movie.
Yes.
Just oh
great.
Man.
Great moment.
I was watching this in the theater, just this right here. I just lost it. I was like, oh my god. And that goes back to like the whole advancement of powers. Like, he's never had to deal with something this fast before, but oh yeah, of course he can, if Wonder Woman can see a bullet zipping by her head, of course he can see the Flash running at him.
Yeah. No, it's great. I've tried to, like, from a filmmaking perspective, tried to really analyze why it is so awesome, but it's kind of just fun to just soak up the fact that it is awesome.
I'll tell you why, and this is what Zack Snyder does so well. It's because every time you read a comic book like this, you thought, but damn, what would that really look like? This drawing is really cool, but what if you did that? And Zack Snyder would bring that stuff to life. Two mountains the size of men crashing through a building, and the building just collapses around them. Zack Snyder was like, no, but seriously, let's do that. And then here's another 2 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second casualty. That there was a second of them of time restoring itself and them going flying and everything just shattering around Superman, but that got cut. Like, that was in there. Oh well.
This is great, by the way. The bracelet, like, so him grabbing her before she can get her bracelets is pretty awesome.
Damn, that looks like it hurt. Right into the frame of the car, by the way. That's not a soft spot on a car. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so earlier when he said, I know you, so that kind of like, okay, he is remembering things, but if he remembers things, he should remember that they actually ended on good terms.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
And then he says, you won't let me die.
This is new. Yeah.
So as a BVS fan, the you won't let me die, it's like, no, like, Superman willingly gave his life. That's the whole point of the end of BVS. So he would not be, like, blaming Batman for the death. He knows.
Yeah, he stops being confused. Now he's just being a dick. Like, come on.
And he's like, being confused is different than, like, thinking literally the wrong thing. Like, if he says Batman somehow killed him, that's not being confused. That's him literally thinking something that's false. And was not the case. He sacrificed himself.
And this is why the hate that Suicide Squad gets really pisses me off, because I swear to God, David Ayer gets Zack Snyder's deal better than even Joss Whedon does. Like, that movie is more consistent with Man of Steel and BVS than this moment did. Not this moment. This is great, but like him. Do you bleed? Like, that's not. No, you don't get it.
Yeah,
you missed the point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just, I said, do you bleed? No, I'll say, do you bleed? Like, no, it's like he's pretending there's still a grudge. Like, Joss Whedon watched BVS and think that, like, Batman and Superman still have a grudge against each other. It's like, no, they don't. Like, it was actually an issue of them being in the wrong mindset, and then they actually had an understanding by the end. So, yeah, those dialogue lines would be one of the few things that I really do think should change, but I'm not, I still overall like the movie. I do like Lois coming in. I take that as a connection to the nightmare scene, or the Flash. After the nightmare scene, the Flash says Lois is the key. I take this as Batman registered, okay, Lois is the key when I have a dangerous Superman or whatever, so I'm going to make sure Lois is around, and then it does work and restores him, so I view that as a connection to BVS.
Oh, totally, yeah. That, again, that was in there, yeah. And then look, he just goes straight home. Like, that makes sense. That all checks out.
Yep.
You can tell a lot of beautiful stuff was lost, but I mean, 2 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second. So it's fine. It's fine.
He looks, in this shot here, you can look at his mouth or his head or anywhere, and he looks fine. It's in some of the other shots where you have to look at his eyes.
That's really the only. There's a couple of giveaways for what's new and what's original. He's so angry. Look at him.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah, he doesn't take loss well, getting thrown around. And he's basically right. Like, this is a good time for them to have a sort of like, you know, we're in trouble kind of moment, because they actually they tried to bring Superman back, but it didn't work out very well. They did lose the other Mother Box. This is like a low point for the team. And
if somebody's going to get pissed off, like, it's kind of not really what Arthur's like in the comics. He's more reserved, but he works. He's perfect for this here.
Yeah, and there's some iterations of the Justice League in cartoons and in the comics where he's sort of like a reluctant Justice League member who doesn't quite fit in.
Which makes perfect sense. He's a king. Come on, and he hates the land world with good reason. I just real quick, my favorite Aquaman though is Batman Brave and the Bold Aquaman. Outrageous! I think this is the best version of that character. I love that guy.
Yeah. Now we get the good continuation here of Diana and Vic, and to me it works every time. Their relationship and the fact that she's able to reach Vic, I buy it. Like I think it's believable there. And then here we get a little bit more of the banter, and Bruce and Arthur kind of still not quite on good terms yet, but they're trying to get there.
Yeah, Dr. Fish? No, idiot.
So I like this. I like this kind of bruised Bruce, and she notices it, right? And so she's very attuned to people's emotional state and how they're feeling and stuff. So I think it makes sense that she would notice it. Yeah.
It's actually kind of a cool look without the cape.
Yeah. I think this is well acted. Like I can buy that Ben Affleck is actually pretty sore right now and feeling the bruise and the pain. I think that's an important line there, where she says, you know, he could have killed you, and he says, I'm willing to make the trade. So there are a few foreshadowings that he is willing to sacrifice himself or go on a suicide mission. This is one of those foreshadowings right now, that he's basically saying, I am willing to kill myself if it will get the team together, or maybe he's just kind of saying, I'm at the end of my line, these new heroes are really going to take over, my time is over.
But and also Batman's life is one big suicide mission. There's that too. I mean, for real.
Oh yeah, I am suicide, Tom.
Who he is, yeah.
And it continues their kind of thing where he said, you know, I was listening to you about heart, you know, and using that to reach Clark there. And it's a little bit on the nose, but at least there are these character arcs to it about her and her being reluctant to be the leader, and because she's worried about risking people's lives. So it's a good arc. In some of these spots like this, it's a little bit clumsy, like very, very on the nose. But at least I would rather have an arc that is sometimes on the nose
I don't know about clumsy.
No arc whatsoever.
Wonder Woman's like the most direct person that ever lived, so it makes sense for me for her to just to talk like that. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I still take it over like other movies or superhero movies that don't give much of a character arc at all, and so I'm at least happy to have one. Here, I wish they would have talked about the ring explicitly. At least she has the ring on and she's touching it, so that draws attention to it. But it would have been even better if they would have talked about it at least a little bit. But yeah, so this is not great. I wish, I'm such a big fan of Man of Steel and BVS and Lois and these characters and their relationship. I think it's just been developed great. And these scenes are fine, but they don't tug at my heartstrings as much as they could have. So for me, it's kind of one of those cases where you know what, this is actually not bad, but it could have been so much better. And if you focus on how much better it could be, then that can make you really depressed about the movie.
You know, what I'm curious about is how she would have in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman, she kind of saves the day in a big way. Mm-hmm. She's always a huge component of it, and here she's more of a bystander, which there's 6 other characters and also 2 hours 0 minutes 1 second, but I'm just curious as to what her arc would have been like in the longer version of the movie. And someday, hey, and everyone's like, hashtag release the Snyder Cut. Just give it. I know nobody wants to hear this, but seriously, all the footage is there. You just need to finish the special effects, cut it together, complete the ADR, and and all the other stuff. It's not as simple. There is not a version of this movie that's sitting in a drawer with a piece of tape with the word Snyder Cut written on it. It's going to take some work, but it's all the ingredients are there. It's happened. It's literally happened before. Literally do a Superman sequel. So just be patient.
It might take a little while. Yeah.
Just it can happen, and history says it actually probably will. So just, damn, people, chill.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm really annoyed because I've been getting on Vero, and like Zack Snyder will post like a nice picture of a street he's walking down, and all the comments are just like, "Yo, where that Snyder Cut at?" No, and it's just like, shut up.
Definitely leave him alone.
Yeah, he can't do anything about it.
He knows, and like, if he can do something about it, he's going to do something about it. Like pestering him is not going to help.
Right.
Yeah.
Let him post his nice pictures. Oh, it's Ma Kent. Yeah, have you ever seen that I watched a panel of them at like Comic-Con or something, and I'm sorry, Diane Lane could not stop hitting on Henry Cavill. It was hilarious and creepy.
That's funny. I think this is pretty good how she starts out kind of skeptical, which you would be, right?
Oh,
if
yeah.
you knew your son was dead, you buried your son, you'd be skeptical. But then when she sees him up close, and then I think it's, nice embrace and stuff. So now they got all 3 mother boxes, so they're in business. There you go. Praise to the Unity.
Yeah, he's like I guess he was intended to be like kind of a slave to this thing. That's an interesting dynamic. They're all driven, like all these villains are all driven by something that they can't really control, like Lex and his neuroses, and Zod and his programming, and then Steppenwolf and whatever was going to go on there.
Yeah, he's definitely in service of the bigger. Yeah, he's in service of something bigger. He's also, trying to like reclaim his honor from having been defeated the previous time, so that's kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. They could have just developed that a little bit more, I think. I like that where Cyborg is all of a sudden speaking in like a completely different thing, and like, sorry, like, I like how he's just trying to constantly get a handle on his powers and stuff. I like that line with Aquaman because, like, we saw him at the beginning. He kind of has a soft spot for people that are on the outskirts of society and stuff, isolated. And so here again, he's kind of like, oh yeah, people that don't have anywhere else. Like he can identify with the isolated people. Nice little epic shot here of the team rising up. It's good to have some team shots.
Great lighting.
Right? Yep.
That is a pretty cool ship.
Yeah, and the Flying Fox is actually a bat. It's called the Flying Fox because it's like as big as a fox, but it is actually a bat.
They're huge. We have some at the zoo here, and they're just like gigantic, like flying dogs, dude.
Yeah, it's just some people are like, why is it called the Flying Fox? Usually Batman names everything after a bat. It's like, they are bats. Like they're a bat that's called a Flying Fox. So yeah, they seem like they shouldn't even exist. The actual flying foxes, they seem like an animal that should not exist in the real world, but they do.
I like his cowl-less look.
Yeah, I was glad we got a little bit of that. Yep. There might have been some that were cut based on trailers, but at least we do get it here. And again, another chance for a little bit of, Justice League interaction and some personal moments here.
Some levity.
Before we get into the final action sequence. I think, I like the characters. I like the way, like, the personalities that they gave to each of the characters. I like how they play off each other. Like, to me, that's a really strong point of the movie. And here, it seems like, oh, this is kind of rude, but then you realize later, it makes it funny in retrospect that, like, that's why he was kind of a little bit too forthright with it. But we're also getting some insight into him, right? He's, been this loner. He's like, wants somewhere to fit in.
If you don't have a moment where the lasso of truth accidentally makes somebody, I mean, that's why it's there. So, he's like, damn it.
I like how they give Cyborg that little smirk because Aquaman had been giving him such a tough time, and so then for Aquaman to see him or for Cyborg to see Aquaman like that, I thought it was good to just get a quick reaction shot of Cyborg. But the Flash gets a little bit more of the explicit humor. But I think even Cyborg's smirk was actually kind of funny.
Which is great because now this is good too.
So it might have been part of the edits and stuff to change this to a red sky. I gotta admit, I think the red sky is actually kind of cool. Visually, it's kind of unique, and it has precedent in the comic books having a red sky in DC Comics. So here's the big team shot. Obviously, a big money shot there. Coming down. So now, we get Batman's kind of suicide mission here. Don't wait for me. He's basically knows I'm probably going to my death here, but that's part of the plan. He's passing off the reins of the Age of Heroes to this new team. He knows as a mortal guy with these bruises and shoulders that come out of place, if he can sacrifice himself to help the cause, and he's done what he can do. And
like I said before, I've always felt like anytime he goes up against, any kind of insane person who's kidnapped a bunch of kids or whatever, you kind of got to figure the odds are pretty good that you might die. So for him, this is just less heroic stoicism and more yeah, it's Tuesday, man. I might die, so...
Mm-hmm.
That's tight. Nice. That's great.
Yeah, and again, a nice, a memorable setting and a good use of the setting.
Yeah.
Each of the action sequences, you can really have a sense of the place, and you remember where it was when that action happened. It wasn't just a generic spot that's forgettable. So I like that, especially, I'm not a huge action movie buff, but I do appreciate when an action movie has a really thoughtful, unique kind of setting that they put the action sequences into.
Yeah, because you get that scene in Batman versus Superman where they fight in that abandoned building, and it's just so it has that look to it, and it's such a distinct environment. And then that same year, Civil War, and it's just an empty airport. Oh, okay, well that's cool too.
Or a lot of action movies where it's how many fight sequences have I seen in a parking garage? It's I can't keep them all straight. I've seen 9 different sequences in a parking garage. So it's I'm glad when it's all right, I've not seen an action sequence that's in Chernobyl, that sort of thing.
Chernobyl has been taken over by aliens, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and it's not just Chernobyl. It's the parademons swarming around and everything too. Yeah, and the red sky,
tentacles,
right? Putting the red sky over it.
Yeah,
yeah. So this is their everybody's following Batman. So this is their chance to get out. They got out just in time. Yeah.
Damn, that's cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's good to have a nice Batmobile sequence as well. And it's a different type of Batmobile sequence than BVS. This one is taking on a whole different kind of challenge. That tower is actually a pretty famous tower in if you look at pictures of Chernobyl and stuff.
Oh.
I like the old reverse shooting while he's going in reverse. Pretty cool.
It's this is cool because you get to see the Batmobile, with all it just completely unchained. You see it in the last movie. He's very restrained. It's capable of so much, but he only kills a couple of people with it. And here he's just hey, Batmobile, go on auto mode and just kill everything you see. That's a good look. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Cyborg flying through, Flash running by, Wonder Woman knocking off the parademons, and Aquaman. So Alfred's line, a little bit cheesy, but it's actually true. We did actually just have the whole team kind of fly through and do their part. So, for me, it is like, no, it is the team. They came back for him. They're not just going to let him go and sacrifice himself. And Diana, like, it's actually fulfilling an arc. It's Diana took the leadership role that Bruce wanted her to take, but she took it in her own way and said, I'm going to take a leadership role to save your life instead of to sacrifice your life.
Yeah. So
that's how she, like, resolved her arc. This is just awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
With I'm watching it. I should just say, since it's an audio commentary here, this is sweet.
Yeah. There's Michael the Archangel casting Lucifer out of heaven. Getting a little literary.
Nice. And then surfing through a building. Very literary indeed.
Comic books are literature, damn it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, this whole thing. This is just great.
Yeah. It's a nice, very nice Batman moment there. Good use of the cape, too, by the way.
Yeah.
So another Wonder Woman landing down. Now, in the trailer, I think she landed down like that, but, like, Cyborg and Aquaman were flanking her.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
This is fine. This gives her a good moment alone.
Yeah. It's not, to me, unless I saw the other version, I can't really say anything big one way or the other. And again, I'll just try to take what this says.
And that's very much the kind of change that could have happened anyways. Movies change all the time between the trailer and the movie, so it's it's covered in.
Now, boogers. I do think, I think this is set up pretty well because everybody has something they're doing, right? Like Cyborg is working on the Unity, trying to break that apart. Flash is keeping the parademons off, and then Wonder Woman and Aquaman are trying to deal with Steppenwolf. Like, it's actually pretty organic that they all have something they need to be doing.
If there was a moment where he had a vision of the Nightmare universe, that would have been it. It could have been the Mother Box.
Into Unity.
Yeah, because then it could have been trying to stop him from doing that, which would be a lot like... Because in Suicide Squad, at the end, they get to Enchantress, and she tries to stop them by giving them visions of what could be. And then in Wonder Woman, when she gets to Ares, he tries to stop her by showing her a vision of what could be. Yeah. So this would have been the moment...
Well,
yeah, Man of Steel, yeah.
Zod shows Clark a dreamscape.
So
he doesn't.
Okay, so we agree that was the moment, and because that would have been the conduit, those mother boxes, to show him and I don't know what the dynamic would have been because that sounds more negative than the other ones. He wouldn't want the nightmare world, but maybe that's what it thought he wanted because.
Yeah,
I'm really just working this out now. We'll save this for the scene by scene.
Well, and also the last Cyborg saw of Superman, Superman was flying away, but Cyborg does not actually know that Superman came around and is healthy.
Oh yeah.
So if Cyborg saw a vision, he might be thinking like, oh crap, if we stop Steppenwolf, Superman is going to come, and he might think Superman is about to come on Steppenwolf's side. He has no idea.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So the Mother Box is like, join up. Yeah, okay. All right.
And also the Mother Box was the one that brought Superman back, so Cyborg might be worried that Superman was tainted by the Mother Box to actually, follow Darkseid. So... But actually Superman's fine. The audience knows that Superman's fine, but...
Well, there's nothing wrong with a little dramatic irony.
Yep. By the way, some also good action. I think that the blows between Steppenwolf and Aquaman, those feel pretty good and physical. And that also feels pretty, intense. The axe coming down right on his shoulder. And his shoulder is actually, separated there. Pretty good. Yeah, okay. All right, Cyborg. Hope you're gonna be all right. I mean, it's good, right? It shows the threat level is legit.
Oh shit.
Okay. Now we knew he was coming, right? Because we saw him on the farm, and he said, I got to go help Bruce and stuff. So we knew he was coming. It was just a matter of time. I like Aquaman's reaction. I don't like Batman's reaction as much.
I kind of, this is a minor complaint, but I would have preferred him to say outrageous, because that actually, it's not just from that cartoon, it's actually an Aquaman catchphrase. But whatever. He'll get one in Aquaman. I'm looking forward to that moment. It's like Cyborg's Booyah, you know?
Yeah. Now, I will say I like Superman dodging Steppenwolf's punch. I feel like it's a callback to the eyeball moment where he tracks Flash, like the speed that he has. And I do not mind the smile that Superman kind of has here, because I view it as he has a second chance at life, and he actually just feels pretty good about that, you know?
That's kind of more, that moment there, you can see his mouth. That's a little more proof that the civilians were added later. Not for nothing, but, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Quindent flip that Aquaman does there is pretty sweet. A nice Batman jump. Always Quindent. Good. I might have a little criticism of Superman leaving to help the civilians, because it feels like it's more important to make sure Steppenwolf is under control and
yes, this is definitely putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah. But this, I don't mind this with the Flash. I think this fits in character.
Okay, but I'm about to ruin that feeling, because this makes no sense, and this is one of the things I liked about Man of Steel, is that one of the points was to see how Superman or these guys with these powers would react to the world, interact with the world around them, and here he's just like picking up a building on its side as though a building wouldn't collapse if you put it on a pivot point. Whatever, fine, it's not a big deal, but that's another example of Joss Whedon missing the point. And I know we say we wouldn't focus on this stuff, but damn.
Yeah, I'm the same. I really liked it about BVS and Men of Steel that they,
because that's what I've always wanted to see.
Like, think of real physics.
Yeah, when I read comics, it's like, this is cool, but no, seriously, what if Superman did this? It would look different, and that's what these movies always gave to me, and that's kind of what this is missing. That's fine. This is great.
So I like this thing here with Superman and Cyborg having to kind of do this together. And them being the ones who died and now having like the new chance at life. I think that's really good. But
and Cyborg literally gets a moment, his character arc, where he's like, okay, I'm not depressed anymore. Like, that's nice.
Yeah, I think this is actually really, really good.
Herculean.
But I agree with what you said about the physics of the building, and I kind of liked in Man of Steel and BVS that there was not freeze breath or super breath or whatever, and then they go ahead and bring it in, because again, that's like the power.
Shout out to Dr. Awkward, who completely made that. Like, he's right. Like, that's not how lungs work. Actually, I know how lungs work. That's not how they work, but it's fine. Whatever.
I've not liked freeze breath for a long time. Like the original movies, even in the comics. I like. Well, anyway, I don't want to talk over the rest of this stuff. I'm even okay with the
that's what we're here for. I don't know if you realized.
The laughing from Superman there and Diana saying I work with children. I actually like both of those. Yeah. And then we get one more beat here where Steppenwolf's not quite done yet. So now we have to finish him off. I think that all is pretty good. Some of it's tropey, but it's okay.
Well, they're always like being forced to do things. And here they just kind of wrap it up in a nice little bow. I feel like there's kind of something missing with him just getting carried off by the parademons, but I don't know, whatever. Because again, like, I'm pretty sure that's not in Zack Snyder's version of the movie. So I wonder what his ignominious end would have been in Snyder's version, but I'm sure we'll find out eventually. Or he'll just tweet it. You see David Ayer tweeted today, like, what the Joker subplot was? Did you see that?
Oh no, I've been traveling for work all now.
So I'll show you later.
Online. Oh yeah, I'll check it out.
So we'll find out. So this is fine.
Yeah. For me, I'm fine with it. It's possible that Snyder's and Terrio's original ending is way better, but I don't know that until I know that.
I think that's a given.
I do think Flash is laying there a little bit awkwardly, but that's kind of weird.
Well, I don't know what is he gonna do. It's been taken care of. Oh wait, we haven't said anything, but Batman's new costume is pretty tight. I like that.
Yeah, yep. That goes without saying, I think. Yeah, I'm all right with it. I just wish Flash was standing up or crouching or something.
I don't know, man. He took a pretty big hit. That's fine. Booyah.
I love that they included the booyah. I was actually kind of worried that they weren't going to fit it in. I'm like, just give me one. Find the right moment for it. Give me one.
Yeah.
The fist bump is great, but I thought that was a good spot to put the booyah, and I like it. Now this is a good shot. Like you might say like, oh, Snyder's would have been better. Like, okay, but like this is pretty good.
Yeah. Well, it might have been Snyder. Shit,
I think they might have just recolored the background.
The coloration. Okay, people have been saying that like this movie might have been darker and Snyder's would have been darker. I don't think that's the case because remember he hired a different cinematographer than what had worked on Man of Steel and BVS, and this goes back to Excalibur. But in Excalibur, it is darker. Like the beginning of the movie is very dark, the middle of the movie is very bright, then the end is dark, and it goes back to being bright again. And it's this whole Fisher King Arthur kind of deal. Which I can talk about later in the podcast, but it really makes sense, especially it gets so bright here at the end. Everything is nice and sunny, and the color palette's different. I think Justice League 2 would have looked different, and it would have been like a gradual thing. And then we go back to the horrible, terrible brown of the Hell World, mini apocalypse when Earth gets terraformed, and that all goes back to Excalibur, man. I'm telling you. Mm-hmm.
This is really good denouement kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is really nice. Getting the farm back, Bruce and Clark together. I think it's all good. This is good denouement for Barry. A lot of good stuff here. And that's nice too. Got a reference, I'm assuming, from Bruce. So like Bruce basically, Bruce doesn't have the superpowers, but he can help Martha Kent. He can give Barry a recommendation.
I don't know, man. Being able to manipulate the largest, most powerful government in human history is kind of a superpower.
Lois is back to work, so we're it's a little bit of A to B to C, like straightforward kind of stuff, but it also is kind of satisfying to have just resolutions to, like Lois is back to work. She's writing again. Like, okay, so that's her. She's out of her funk and has Clark back, and Bruce is now, he's not so isolated. He's willing to open and restore the manor again, so that's a big symbolic kind of move for him. And it is nice to think about BVS to this and think about Bruce was able to get himself out of that hole and get to a point where he has friends, where he's inviting more people in. Mm-hmm. He's restoring the manor. Like that's a pretty big, shift for Bruce, a pretty good story arc for him there. Cyborg gets the Cyborg emblem, comes on, and he's smiling at his dad, so that's meaningful.
This is Lois is getting a voiceover now, too. I like that.
Yeah, the trilogy uses a lot, we had in BVS.
In a lot of ways, she narrates the story.
Yeah, she had some voiceover kind of stuff in Man of Steel. We get Clark's narration at the end of Man of Steel when he talks about, like, taking the job at the Daily Planet stuff. BVS, we obviously have Bruce's words at the end about men are still good.
Oh, and that's
we
a good point.
We get the hope was still there. We had to just find it. Now there's a little bit, so we'll talk about this in the podcast, but it will probably be several months from now because it's the end of the movie. But one little problem I have here is she says we were kind of losing hope, but the heroes were still there if you look up to the sky. And what I don't like about that is it seems to center the hope in the heroes rather than in everybody. And what I liked about BVS ends by saying we all can be Superman. We can all take inspiration from him and his giving him himself and
that's what I was talking about with the soldiers. It was
spreading all around.
That was that's one of the big things in the other movies is regular people. Granted, those regular people are Army Rangers and Navy SEALs, but still, a real-ass regular human being can be a hero, like Batman or Commissioner Gordon. You don't have to be a guy, or those guys in Wonder Woman, but also,
Yeah, I just like the spirit of BVS where it ends by saying, hey, his monument is all around you. It's us.
Oh, yeah.
Versus here where it ends by saying, look up to the sky, look up to other people, and that's your inspiration and hope.
Yeah, people want to make Snyder out to be this Randian fascist, but really his message is no, man, we're all Superman.
Yeah, I see a lot of good messages from Snyder, but I do think he's a complex kind of artist where
Absolutely.
you can't put him in one box. That's the thing. So here we get the race. I mean, so this is just a fun, right? Like, we've got these characters. Let's have just a little bit of put a smile on your face as the movie's over. I'm fine with it. I think it's kind of cool.
It's just compared to the structure and tone of the other movies, it's out of place for me. But whatever. Who doesn't like a Superman Flash race?
Yeah. So if it was totally up to me, I tend to be actually against mid-credit scenes or end-credit scenes because
I'm not at all. But yeah. Well, for these movies, no.
Well, for me, I'm kind of against them because I think they distract people's attention away from the story that was just told. Like it like especially the next one, it makes us leave the theater thinking about the Legion of Doom or like, oh, Deathstroke, like what's he gonna do? And I think when you leave a theater, I think you should be thinking about the movie that you just saw. Like, you should be thinking about the character development, and you should think about like the meaning that you're taking from it and questions that you have about it. And I feel like the end credit scenes, like, they like trick the audience into just focusing on what's coming next instead of focusing on what they just saw. So that's my overall thing. Now, that's my overall position. Now, when I watch Flash and Superman deciding to like race each other, I can enjoy that. That is kind of fun,
Yeah, that's I don't have anything again. I don't think there's any wrong way to make a movie. Like, that's the way I've always looked at it. There are no rules to this. So if you want to add a scene that teases the next movie, like the Marvel movies, that's fine. Like, it works for them, and it's entertaining, and it does whet my appetite. It does make me really excited. Like, oh shit! Like, every time, I'm a sucker.
Well,
I'm a huge mark.
I'm saying they're good at their purpose.
Right,
I just disagree with the purpose. I think you should respect the art that was just presented to you. Now, if you didn't really present art, if you just said, okay, that was like popcorn thing, it's done, and now let's focus on the next thing, then they're very effective at that. It's just my goal is different. Like, my goal is to chew your food, so to speak, like, of what you just saw, not just like whet your appetite for the next thing. But we got one more coming, so like this next one is very effective to get me interested in Deathstroke and Lex, and I love to see Lex again because I love that character. So from that perspective, I love what's about to happen in a few seconds. But overall, if you've made an artistic piece, I think you should let your audience digest that piece instead of already dangling the next thing in front of them. So
I think as a matter of function, most people turn off or walk away from the credits anyways. I don't think it. I see what you're saying. I do disagree, but I'm not going to argue with you because who gives a shit. But for these movies, for what we're watching here, I actually really don't like it because it's so different. It just doesn't fit with any of the other ones, much less Snyder's other movies. It's so shoehorned in here, and clearly Lex was supposed to be a bigger part of the plot. Somehow, I'm not real well because I still say he called Darkseid in Steppenwolf. I still say that like he was making a phone, like a what is it called from Ender's Game, an Ansible call to Steppenwolf, being like, "Hey, nothing else worked. Will you come kill these people?" Because he's suicidal. And to him, like, he's like Ayn Rand, where Ayn Rand is like, I'm not going to die. The world is going to die. I think that's how Lex sees things, and he's literally just like, hey, I couldn't kill everyone. Will you come do it for me? So I think he was going to play a bigger part. Kind of Lex Luthor and Superman, too. Like, I'll take Australia. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I still tend to think of it that way. Like, because seeing BVS, I still think, like, okay, in this movie, they say, like, Superman died, and then there was enough discord in the world that the unity felt like the Earth was divided enough that we can conquer it this time. But I still add in there that, and also Lex tipped them off. Like, that's how they knew Superman died. Like, that's why they, like, just investigated Earth a little bit more and like paid attention to it to see, and then when they paid attention to it because Lex tipped him off, then they noticed like, oh yeah, there is a lot of strife and anger and discord and stuff. So all right, let's send Steppenwolf back over there. That's how I think of it myself.
Oh yeah, absolutely, that makes sense.
but like we said earlier, like I love Lex as a villain, and so having him, I'll take him wherever I can get him, even if it's end credits kind of scene. And yeah, I'm hoping to get him in a Man of Steel sequel, or however if they do Legion of Doom, I hope he's centrally involved. I know Jesse Eisenberg says it's like his favorite character that he's played, and he hopes to play him again. So there's a lot of, in the WB and the DC films, there's a lot of things being discussed and in preparation, that sort of thing, and I'm hoping Lex Luthor is involved somewhere in there.
I've always wanted to see, I always thought that if these movies have a definitive end to them, if there's like at some point there's like a last movie, I always wanted to see Lex come around. Because that's when it starts in Man of Steel, is like, some people can't be saved, but like, Pete Ross starts out as a dick and a bully, and then he ends up being like a pretty cool guy thanks to Clark's intervention. And there's this great Elliot S. McGinn story. It's called what's it called? Oh man, it's a prose story. It's a short story, and it's a story about like 100 years in the future after Lois has died and Superman like has white hair, and he's like relatively an old man. He's still fairly youthful, but like he's not like 25 like he is in the comics anymore. And like Lex is so old that he requires like life support, but he can still get around because he's a genius. And then Lex is finally like, Jesus, you know what, Superman, like, you're alright. I was a dick the whole time. I'm sorry, man. And Superman's like, it's fine. Let's say, you want to go like explore space? And he's like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And it's a great story. Like, it's beautiful. And it's very hopeful to me, the idea that somebody like as messed up and as dark as Lex Luthor could eventually be like, nah, man, I was wrong. I'd like to see that. I don't have any expectation of that actually happening, but like, can you imagine how nice of a story that would be? Oh,
that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. I know he's come around a little bit in the like New 52 last few years of the comics. Like Forever Evil is kind of like a Lex Luthor story where he's on the side of the Justice League, which
makes perfect sense for that story too.
There's some moments where he kind of, is coming to terms with like what Superman has meant and what he's done, and he doesn't maybe come around as fully as the story you described, but there's some glimmers of it, in recent years in the comics.
It's called Luthor's Gift by Elliot S. McGinn.
Oh,
look it up. It's available online. There's a great website. They have all these old Superman comics. If you've never read not you, Sam, but if you're listening to this, you never read Action Comics #1, or you've never read Must There Be a Superman, also by Elliot S. McGinn, it's all on this website. It's all free because this stuff's out of print anyways. But it has this prose story, Luthor's Gift.
That's cool.
Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Sam, shut up. It's happening. Sam.
I was gonna say we're getting into it. Yeah, no, it's great. A great shot. It's like, this is cool coming up on it, and then when we go to the water, it's a great shot with Deathstroke to start. But this is this is just a nice little misdirect for the audience.
Never did get moved to Arkham. This is kind of a cool parallel to Suicide Squad too.
Oh yeah.
And also the Killing Joke, because this is totally a Killing Joke move.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a bald guy. We're idiots.
But man, a great shot with the flapping the sword and using the wind and
Deathstroke. That's so good. Deathstroke and like this universe's version of Deathstroke is so cool.
And it's great too with the boat. Like, so on the front of the boat you have the green and the red, which is just part of maritime. That's how boats are marked. But it's also a nice kind of Deathstroke thing of the two tones. And then he has the two tones, obviously.
There he is. Here's actual Lex Luthor, bald, classy suit.
Can get himself out of high security prison, no problem.
Yeah. Slade Wilson, the Deathstroke, the Terminator.
And I like that too with Lex saying, "I have too much to live for." Like, so Superman was just risen from the dead, and now Lex has said, "I've got a lot to live for too." League of Our Own, and also Lex always quoting pop culture. So like the League of Our Own just immediately makes me think of Tom Hanks and Rosie O'Donnell. Madonna, I think, is in that movie. All right, Well, we made it through 2 hours, and how long was it again? Was it
2 hours, 0 minutes, 1 second. I mean, it's just because it bums me out how much must have gotten shaved off. But honestly, it wasn't that bad. We're still here. We're still alive. I had a good time.
I still like the movie.
Yeah.
Like, if I look for good stuff, I find it. That's the thing.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
if you look for stuff to get all tied up in knots about, you can find that too if you want to.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's the best way to live.
Yeah, people. It seems to be like this is my big problem with like fans these days. Fans, in a lot of ways, are like the worst thing that can happen to something. You know, somebody comes along and they're like, "I love this," and then it's like, "I own this." You know, like this is me, and then you take this ownership of something you had no hand in creating, and it becomes such a big part of your life and your ego that like you need it to be a certain way. And movies are not like hamburgers. You know, you can't. It's not going to be the exact way you want it to be every time because it's not one dinner made for you. It's one piece of art meant for a million people. You're just going to have to live with some stuff.
And you can't send it back and like you know
And we like obviously I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not happy, but like I would much rather have had like the intended vision for this. But you know, we got what we got. It's not that bad. But people, it seems like the only way they can enjoy something is by criticizing it and being angry and tearing it apart and trying to send it back when there's just literally no way to do that. And it's just like if you don't like it, how about you just don't freaking talk about it? Why are you dwelling on it? Like that's what gets
find
to me.
something that you love and then spend your energy on that.
I don't know.
Well, I think that's a good message to end on. Find something you love, folks. We love BVS, we love Man of Steel. I actually like this movie pretty well. I'll say that. But Nick, thanks so much for taking the time. It's good to hear your voice, and glad to have you as part of the team.
Thank you, Sam. It was great talking to you.
All right, and thanks to all the listeners for your support, and also check out Suicide Squadcast, Man of Steel Answers, as we always do. We have a nice podcast family.
Seriously, please check out the Squadcast because they're very positive. That's exactly what we're talking about. Like their view on all this, their take on the news. It's the exact opposite of what all the news is. You know, everybody, all these websites that just exist to get clicks, and they're like, so here's what's going on in the news, and it's the way they deliver it. It's not saccharine. They're not like, they're not sugarcoating anything, but just, they're also not being dicks. And that's what I like about the Squad. Shout out to my boys, the Squadcast. Yeah. And Man of Steel Answers Insight Commentary, Mosaic, is my inspiration. That's why I even wanted to get into this. Because his, Dr. Awkward's take on this stuff, one, he's a genius. Like, I think he's, like, literally actually, like, a high IQ, like, genius person. But, I mean, seriously, like, the way he looks at these, like, this is art to him. He will make you reconsider I can't say enough good things. Just listen to that show. Mm-hmm. If you like this show, you'll love Man of Steel Answers Insight Commentary. That's all I have to say.
And the Suicide Squadcast Network, I'll also just put in a plug for that too, because if you're not thrilled with Justice League and you want to find something that you can be more excited about, there's the DC TV shows. There's a lot that are always expanding, and there's the DC TV Squadcast. And then if you want to get into some comics, Nick has mentioned a lot of comics. There's some cool stuff going on in DC Comics right now. They have the DC Comics Squadcast as well. So I'll give a shout out to the full network over there, Fans Without Borders, even if you want to go into some Marvel and some Star Trek, Star Wars kind of stuff. So a lot of good friends over there. But anyway, if you've already listened this far and you're doing all of that, you probably need some more podcasts to listen to. So that's why we'll just plug all of those. But Nick, I think we'll call it a night, and I think we'll go about the rest of our business. How about that?
Sounds great.